Bienvenidos vuestros mercedes, damas y caballeros. This is Spanish Galleon, and today I will be going over my thoughts to the book Isidore of Seville's History of the Kings of the Goths, Vandals, and Suevi, the English translation, which I have just read and published here on my channel. Now, this won't be a summary of the book, but if I need to explain the lore, I will. Otherwise, don't forget to check out my audiobook, i.e. the book itself, for a more in-depth summary and or if you want to read to it, because I show the pages as well as read it to you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. I appreciate the support, and without further ado, let's go over the book. Also, pardon me if you hear any outside noise or if the quality is not up to par with what I want to produce or to your tastes. I'm making this on the fly, so it'll be a shorter video, but just to let you guys know. So I won't be looking at the camera. I'll be looking on my monitor because that's where I have my script. So apologies, but thank you for tuning in. Well, for context, I came across this book in my university library and was on a sort of a Goth binge, where I needed to learn as much as possible about the Goths, especially the Visigoths. This book was chosen because, 1, it's a short book, and 2, it is a translation of the main source, that source being Isidore of Seville. After reading, it gives a good insight over the history of the Visigoths, Vandals, and Suevi. The latter of two, I admit I don't really pay much attention to. Despite it being a history, I can see why it might not be considered history today. The book gives a brief account of the kings, which are the main focus, by the way, it's in the title, but not so much about the world or events around them. It does give more screen time to some leaders, but not to all. So, for example, the book will just simply be, this leader came into office at this time, reigned for that long, and then maybe a few details about his life, how he came up to be, what happened during that was important, and then either in the same paragraph or the next paragraph, he died this and this date, he was succeeded by, and then it starts the next one. So that's a lot of leaders. Not all of them. Some of them he really goes into depth. However, this fact does not bother me too much, as I trust Isidore of Seville more than modern historians. A lot of history books are biased anyway, and they are biased negatively against the Visigoths, and, by extension, me. So me not taking a more proactive role in being skeptical of the work might be at play. That being said, I do not hold this work as the best thing since sliced bread. There are problems I have with it, and I will address them shortly. I also enjoy this work because it's very pro-Spanish, and this channel right here is a very pro-Spanish channel. We love all things Spain here, so this is a huge plus. But the reasons I trust this work to more accurately tell me the history of the Iberian Peninsula is multifold, and I'll explain them. 1. Isidore de Seville lived closer to that time than I and most modern historians do. Thus, he has access to sources that might have been lost today, but that were well known in his time. He also had a sense of traditions that were still present. Think oral traditions or sort of local legends. They were still present then, but they might be lost today. This helps in painting a more colorful perspective on the events that transpired during those times and that he wrote down subsequently. 2. Isidore of Seville was a learned man, writing books and being a general source of knowledge even to this day. And even if he was making stuff up, he still practiced writing and studying and other skills that helps establish himself as an authority on the subject. Now, this doesn't mean that because he's done these things a lot and he's probably a master, at least more than me, in these areas, that makes all the history just legit. It doesn't, but it does mean he does put time and effort and energy and care into this. Number 3, he has a vision for the work that helps give a new perspective. As a writer myself, I know that the words I use have a meaning, whether they be real or abstract, and thus further helps me prove a point that I try to make in the writing. I can only guess that Isidore de Seville shared a similar sentiment, and thus what he includes he believes to be important enough to be passed on to future generations. So, as a writer myself, I know the words I choose have a specific meaning that I want to portray. I might use the word or the verb use instead of, say, chose. So, for example, I used to play tennis instead of I chose to not play tennis. Those words might convey a similar message, but in different ways. Hence, why I can only guess that Isidore Seville shares a similar sentiment, because what he wants to portray in his work, he wants future generations to have a certain understanding of. Hence, he uses the words he does. That being said, everything he writes, I don't personally agree with. Just like with anything, I don't have to necessarily agree with every single word he writes. For example, when discussing the king Sisebut and his forced conversion of the Jews, Isidore of Seville does not approve of the methods, and he writes as much. He also writes that Christ should be preached at every opportunity, and then continues on with the work, and then he continues on writing. Personally, I believe that Sisebut does the right thing, and I do hold a high opinion of him. Isidore Seville, on the other hand, challenges this for his own reasons, and he writes down as much. But in this instance, I still hold my personal beliefs while respecting why Isidore of Seville wrote the things he wrote. Obviously, it is much better to convince someone intellectually. However, he does recognize that, and in any case, any opportunity to preach Christ is a good opportunity. Another example is when discussing Hermenegild and his defiance of his father Leowigild. Personally, I hold the opinion that Hermenegild, a saint by the way, was doing the right thing and dying for what he believes, i.e. the faith. Isidore Seville has a different take, that Hermenegild was a tyrant and that Leowigild, an Arian, did the right thing by defeating and executing his son, a Catholic. Mind you, Isidore Seville is a Catholic. He is a saint. I'll show a picture here. And then he just continues and he writes on. He doesn't even give a justification like he did with Sisebut. So I reject this, but it's important to reflect on it, and I can see why Isidore Seville would even include it. I believe that he did so because at that time, respect for the law and those in authority, even unjust rulers, was upheld in ways that are just lost today. So legally speaking, Hermenegild was just that, a tyrant who broke the sacredness of the law. Thus, further generations should remember this for what it was, the breaking of the law. Again, I disagree, but I can still understand why Isidore Seville includes it. And these are primarily the reasons, and the fact that it was a subject I had interest in, and the brevity of the work, and the fact that it was pro-Spanish, that makes me really, really, really enjoy this work. And those are my thoughts on the book. If you want to explore the work yourself, please, please, please check out my audiobook. I'll have it linked in the description. It both shows you the pages and so you can read them, and it's my voice reading over the words, and there also is a subtitles there that is just me reading them. Or you can find it in a library near you, or if you can find it, you can find it online. But anyway, I just want to make this video, so thank you for watching, and please check out other videos on my channel. Viva Cristo Rey! Arriba España! Adelante España! Adiós, señorías y vuestros mercedes.